It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me. You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So it's,
Craig Price is the man.
I knew it. Craig, shut up. It's Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, Justin Corbett and George Tripsis of Gray Bear Comics joins me to discuss kickstarting their comic, See No Evil. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining. A quick reminder to any of my speaker folks listening to this before July 24th, the Cigar Peg Party and Auction is this weekend. Head up to Suite 6112, or you can sign up online at cigarpeg.com to join us for the big party at the Sandbar Mexican Grill, Sunday night, July 24th, 2016. It's located in the shopping center across the highway from the JW Marriott. It's a great way to spend a couple bucks and drink for the week, enjoy yourself, and give to charity. It goes to the NSA Foundation, a large portion of it, and it's something close to my heart, and I hope you join us. For those non-speaker listeners, thank you for bearing with me. Just a little housekeeping I wanted to make sure I got taken care of. So this week, I have Justin and George of Gray Bear Comics. They've kickstarted their first comic, Speak No Evil, and since podcasting is not a visual medium, I thought it'd be more interesting and useful to discuss how they set up their Kickstarter, how they assembled their creative team, and even if you're not a comic book person, I think there's a lot to learn from these two guys. You can pre-order their comic now at graybearcomics.com for a September delivery, and I hope you give it a read. Let's learn more about how they created Speak No Evil with authors and creators Justin Corbett and George Tripsis. So I know you guys from two separate podcasts. The fact that you guys are working together is kind of unusual I didn't realize. How did you guys get together?
We met through Carrie, who is the main guy from Metal Geeks.
And he's been
That's how I got on Metal Geeks. And
past guest of the show, Carrie Gordon.
We met each other the very first time George ever podcasted. I
right.
came over to be a guest on Metal Geeks that night, and George showed up and decided to try it out and see if he liked it. And he's going strong ever since. And we became fast friends and decided to work together.
Whoop, whoop. So
do the kids not do the whoop whoops anymore?
But
there you go.
So it was just more of you guys met kind of behind the scenes and you just kind of chatted up and said, "Oh, well, I like comic books, you like comic books, I write comic books." I mean, how do you guys decide besides just being pals like, "Hey, let's do this," because writing a comic book is not something you just kind of run. It's not like LA where everybody's got a screenplay. Well, when you go to the Starbucks and 95 people are there writing, it's Houston, so it's kind of
My show is very comic-centric, so we do a lot of interviews with creators, and I've always been really interested in the industry and how to make books and things like that. And we were at Carrie's birthday party several months after we had met, and George approached me with this idea for our first comic, which is called Speak No Evil. And he said, "I'd really like to make this, but I don't think I can afford to do it as a movie. Do you think we could turn this into a comic book? Do you think that's a realistic thing?" And I said, "Yeah, that's totally. Let's meet, and we'll see if we like it and see what we can do about it." And we did, and here we are.
And just like how regular old conversations go, I've had 100 conversations like this. "Hey, what do you think? Would you like to help me with this?" And it never really pans out.
Oh yeah, no.
9 times out of 10, it never pans out.
I was an actor. I know that when nothing is true until a contract is signed, because everybody wants to help you and everybody wants to work with you.
Maybe we should start working on those contracts.
But if I say I'm going to do something, it gets done.
Right.
You learn that.
So the first meeting we had, we just talked about the idea and like where I came up with the idea, and it was originally a movie that I wrote back in college that I wanted to make, and I was never going to have enough money because it's a timepiece and it's a horror and special effects and all that jazz. I was never going to be able to afford to do it the way I wanted to. And so I talked to him about it, and he convinced me that comic book is very viable.
And my guest today, I've got George Tripsis.
Right.
I want to make sure they know your voice. So it's, the first person to speak was George, and Justin Corbett with Gray Bear Comics. Where did you come up with Gray Bear? Because it sounds like it could be a fun kind of interesting kind of comic book.
Everybody thought that in the beginning. We put out a call on Facebook actually asking for art ideas from our friends who are artists for Gray Bear Comics once we came up with the name. And we got a whole lot of BDSM bears immediately.
That was the very first. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. But it really wasn't.
No. Where the name came from, though, is that I've done a lot of things under the moniker of Gray Matter Productions. and George has done stuff.
Yeah, my production stuff is Yorgi, and the logo is a bear. And so
Yorgi the bear?
No, my name. I'm Greek.
Are you with Hannah like Barbar?
Barbar?
Yeah, because we don't want to copyright infringe.
No. My name is George, and in Greek it's Yorgo. So and then if you're talking to a kid, it's Yorgi, and so I just kind of adapted that into my production name.
Cool. So you came up with this idea in college. It's called Speak No Evil. I know this because I have the shirt.
Right.
Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. So where did that idea come from? And explain what it is, because I think you're still you've got your previews done, and it's getting ready to come out in September, full-fledged launch. But so where did the idea come from, and talk about what it actually is?
So originally I wrote it as a short film, and it wasn't called Speak No Evil back then. Back then it had a very much different title. And the concept was a little different too. The theme and how everything plays out is the same. Just how I wrote it as a short film is very different. The original short film was called By Appointment Only, and it was supposed to be about these two old brothers who used to be monster hunters, and they're recalling things from the very first time, how they first got into monster hunting. And I saw this poster one day of Lovecraft and Tesla, and they were monster hunters. And I was talking to my friends, like, man, wouldn't that be cool if like that really did happen? And of course, I didn't want to like just use Tesla and Lovecraft because that's been done to death. But I like the idea of them being the catalyst of starting a huge world and making something awesome. And these two unlikely heroes come in and play that part.
So so where does Justin come in as far as the writing? Because you have this, most of it done, not complete. Is it completely finished? How many drafts before Justin shows up?
Oh, probably. I've probably rewritten it at least 4 or 5 times before I even told Justin about it. But when Justin came in, we expanded it because we realized since it was a comic book, we could tell much more of a story. And so we decided to tell like the prologue of the version of the story, how Nikola Tesla and Lovecraft did the whole thing, and which you saw in the preview. And then we actually decided to focus on the boys as young kids instead of being older people.
Right.
And then we started adding all these characters and a whole bunch of other crap that I don't want to just divulge just yet because it's stuff that's coming out yet. But me and him really expanded the universe that I first thought of, and we created this really fun horror story.
Yeah, we really fleshed out the characters and gave a lot of interesting things to the story, like different monsters and certainly funny language and fun dialogue for the characters to say and things like that. It's changed dramatically from what the original concept was, but all the big plot points are still kind of there. So
there are two brothers in the 30s.
Right.
And so how do they decide they're going to be monster hunters?
By accident.
Yeah,
well,
of course.
It's all by accident, but they don't really want to be monster hunters. They're con artists. So what they want to do is make easy, quick money. And
so they're podcasters.
Is that how you do it?
In the 30s, they didn't have podcasting, and I think that's what
they certainly talk like podcasters. They give each other a lot of shit.
So they figure out how to manipulate this portal that Lovecraft and Tesla created or opened, and they find a way to manipulate it and go to town and kind of hold this town hostage to basically like, hey, we can fix your problem because we know how to handle it, kind of deal.
So do they create the problem, then fix it?
Yeah.
Or do they just come in and try to fix problems?
No, they create the problem, then fix it. And then they just, eventually, what happens later in the story, they bite off more than they could chew and kind of bring on the end of the world.
Yeah, because when you're dealing with interdimensional beings,
right,
almost all of them are evil. I just noticed that no one ever runs into
I never met a nice, cute, nice one yet.
Yeah.
Maybe in some Japanese stories.
Maybe in some Japanese stories.
So do you have because what I understand, I think you have like 20 issues planned out?
Right.
Now, is that going to be 20 issues, then you're going to move on to another thing? Because I think what happens is a lot of times with comics, and I've been out of comics for a while. I used to work at a comic book store, so I was neck deep in that crap until I was about 18, and then I realized, I don't have disposable income.
You wanted a girlfriend is what you wanted. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that didn't happen at 18. But it was more of, hey, I don't make a lot of money, and then all this stuff, this is piling up, which is also why I was offered a copy, and I did not take a copy because I did not want to take a copy of your precious previews.
You're still going to get a copy.
I'm going to
once
get
we
the digital
more
though,
in,
because
yeah.
I for me, I'm so glad that they're on iPads now.
Yeah.
Because only recently in the last year or so have I actually slapped money down to get the, I guess it's Marvel Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can read comic books like on the plane.
Oh, very
But I don't
cool.
have to. I don't have like the boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff.
I do.
Like he does.
No, my parents still have all that stuff. The only box I have still of any of the stuff I have when I was that age is I have a box of all the original Star Wars role-playing game handbooks.
You're a role player.
No, I just had the books because
Oh,
there was
okay.
even though because you need like 7 people and I have like 3 friends and none of them like to play this stuff.
So
but
you were
it's
like
fun.
the nerdier version of D&D kids. Is that what it was?
I liked reading about the D&D kids, yeah, but I liked reading the Star Wars stuff.
I know all
'cause-
the rules to this game. I'm never gonna play.
Yeah, and I also like the all the background information they gave you. So is that something like you guys did for when you start thinking about the characters? Do you have like full written backgrounds that you even if you're not going to use?
We didn't.
To some characters, not every character.
We didn't
though.
make like a Bible though. Like some comic creators make like a Bible for their world and spend a lot of time fleshing out every little minutia about the characters and about the places they're going to visit and about the monsters they're going to fight. We didn't really do that. We just kind of have a general concept of who these characters are because when it boils down to it, one of the brothers is George and one of the brothers is me. Like their personalities are very similar to ours and we put a lot of ourselves into the comic.
That's very true.
So this is polished fan fiction.
Sure.
Possibly.
That's right. Hey, there's nothing wrong with it if it's good. That's why I think fan fiction gets a bad rap because a lot of it's crap. But if it's good,
You
there's
can
nothing
say
wrong
the
with
same thing about Force Awakens.
Sure.
it. Oh, listen to him. So which character is J.J. Abrams?
More than likely, he's Han Solo. Everyone loves Han Solo.
Is that why he killed him off?
Probably.
He's a self-hating Carillion.
What does that say about you, George?
Hey, I do kill a few people in my comic.
But are you expecting your hope is to continue this on until whenever, or are you doing like they do with TV now, where they have a set? We've got 20. We got an arc.
Well, we
And it's-
have 2 10-issue arcs for the story, and really it's broken down into 4 5-issue arcs, but two 10-issue volumes, I guess is a better way to put it. At the same time, we're working on other stories as well. There's a story that I brought to the table that we're sort of fleshing out right now, and there's another one that George had a film idea for, which it's the same sort of situation. Can't really afford to do it as a movie, but we're going to do it as a comic. So we have at least 3 titles that'll be coming out within the next year and a half.
So you guys write them. Are either one of you artists? Do you draw, or did you?
So we outsource for that.
Yeah.
I have a great picture that George drew, but it's not really what you can consider art.
Is it like Superbad, where he's just writing?
Oh
he's
man,
just-
it's super bad.
I'll show you later. It's what I have. It comes up on my phone every time he calls me.
So where did you find your artists?
Well, actually, there's a lot of resources now for aspiring comic book creators. There's digital webbing, there's Reddit, there's ZWall, all these different forums online you can go to and put out an ad saying, we want to hire somebody to do this comic. Here's the general idea of it. If this sounds like something you're interested in, please respond to our email. And we got over 150 emails on our initial request because people are like, Lovecraft and Tesla, yes, sign me up.
Yeah, that was a lot to sift through.
And we sifted through every single one. We spent time looking at every single person's portfolio, narrowed it down to like 3 people because you have to get test pages from these people to see what it's going to look like with your story. And we didn't want to ask a whole lot of people. So we narrowed it down to 3. 2 of the guys said, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. The other guy said, well, either you like my stuff or you don't, so I'm not doing a test page. The funny thing was that same day, we got an email from the guy who was going to become our artist, and he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do a test page, whatever.
I was really gung-ho for this guy, by the way.
And you were absolutely right because he comes from Brazil, so he's not even in the U.S., but he liked our story, and we meshed with him really well, and he's a lot of fun to work with, and he does a great, great job.
Not knowing too much about the background of comics, when you send someone a script, because I think a lot of people think it's like you're writing a story, but it's like more like writing a movie. You send them a
It's
script.
close to script writing, but a little different.
But how do they know what to draw? I mean, so you guys are working together because they just see the words and they've got, but what people read and what people see in their heads can be completely different. So what you wrote may
Right.
not look what this guy thinks it's supposed to look like.
It was a bit of a learning curve for me, especially since I come from the land of like film and TV, and it's all about scripts and
Well, you should know storyboarding.
right. But when you're writing a script, you never write what angle you want or where you want the camera to be pointing, unless you're doing the shooting script. Which 9 times out of 10, unless you're in production, you're not writing a shooting script.
Unless a scene has a specific reason for that,
Right.
like it's a definitive shot that needs
unless
to be
the
done
camera's going to move over and
because it
show
has
someone
meaning
later.
in this overall script.
Right.
Yeah.
So for this one, I was like really gung ho because I had like certain angles that I wanted, and like I was telling Justin like, oh, it needs to look like this.
George and I have very different skill sets. Like, I'm extremely good at describing what we want from our artist, and George is really good at explaining to me what he wants. So really, it's like input into output.
So you're a Tripsis interpreter.
Yes.
It's very good.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
So how did that work? So how do you talk to him?
The problem was with the very first script was I was overly detailed, like a little too detailed, and we probably gave
In some ways.
In some ways.
In other ways, not enough.
Yeah, we were too descriptive on what everything should look like, but not what people should be doing in the first version of the script.
Right. You have to remember in comics, you can only have one action per character per panel. So we'd say somebody was like opening a door while turning his head to say such and such, and
So that works in movies, does not work in comics.
yes,
So yeah, that was a bit of a learning curve, and we probably made 7 drafts.
Nine.
Yeah,
we did 9 drafts for the first issue.
out of the first issue. And Samir does an amazing job of interpreting what we write and putting his own spin on it. He has a way with action that just says exactly what we wanted and then some.
He's an extremely high caliber artist, and we're really, really lucky to have him working on a small independent project like this. I feel like he could easily work for one of the bigger guys.
And so it's all email, or do you have meetings and like Google Hangouts?
Mostly Facebook Messenger. We do have meetings from time to time, and he's very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
He responds to everything we ask him to do very quickly. If we need changes made, he makes them right away. There's not really a language barrier with Samir because he understands English very well.
It's more of a cultural barrier than anything else.
There's certain little things he just doesn't get because, or maybe we're not explaining it right because we're American. And it's led to some funny kind of mishaps and changes that have been made.
It's like
there's
they're eating a meal and he has a little scoop of peas and a thing of meat. It's like, no, it's America. Give him a steak and some real food.
I was a little bit more vulgar than that. Actually, we were like, well, there's a part where the kids are flipping each other off, and so in the script we like Edwin and Silas flip each other off or flip one another off. So when we got our first page back, he didn't draw that. And it just wasn't there, and we're like, "Oh, well, he missed something very vital because it's a joke. It needs
it's
to
the
be in
funniest
there."
joke in the book, yeah.
And so we asked him, like, "Hey, can you fix this?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And then, like, maybe an hour or two later, he writes back. He's like, "What does this mean in quotes? Flipping off in end quote." And
So
we
I
started.
sent him a picture,
Yeah, that's-
giving him the bird with a big smiley face, and I was like, "This is not directed at you, but this is what it means."
And so he's like, "Oh, okay." And then he changed it immediately, and he fixed it.
And so when you do a comic, there's more than just the artist, because they do pencils and then send that
Pencils and inks, yeah.
and then you send it to another person to color it, and then there's another person who writes all the dialogue.
Yeah, who does the lettering?
Yeah, it's very specialized skills. Is same scenario? You just look
Same scenario. Put a call out. Well, with our colorist at least, we put a call out on all the forums. We had narrowed it down to 3 different people. We sent them all one of Samir's pages to do. And we sent it to him and said, "Hey, who do you think does the best job?" We all agreed.
Yeah, after we picked our favorite 2, and then we said, "Hey, which one of these 2 do you like the most?" And I think that's how we picked our.
And he completely agreed with our choice. And we're really happy with Chun Lin. She's from China, so we're like a full international team right now. She does an amazing job. She's lightning fast. Anytime we send her a page, it's like 6 hours later we get a new one back.
Yeah, less than a 24-hour turnaround.
And any changes we need, immediately.
So what kind of files are you working with? This is totally geek related for me because I do Photoshop so what kind of files are you sending each other? Because I'm imagining that
TIFF and PNG files.
Well, nowadays, I'm sure he's doing stuff on tablets. I mean, he's not actually.
He scans it all in a giant 11x17 TIFF.
So he's actually drawing it and then scans it in.
Yeah, he draws it all like hand drawn, hand inked, scans it in, sends it to us. I have to scale everything down to a size that can actually get through
Customs.
Kind of, because China has like embargoes on like certain size files or whatever. So we send it through Google Drive to Chun Lin. Once it's the correct size, she can download it, and then she recolors it. We can run into a little bit of an issue with the printer because all of our artwork wasn't in CMYK, which it has to be. So we've learned,
according to our printer.
She can do that. It's no problem. It's just a change we had to make. She started doing everything in CMYK and sending it back to us in much larger files than we sent to her. And then we recompress them again and then send them to our letterer through Dropbox, and then he does his magic and sends it back.
What
to
country is your letterer from?
us. Oregon.
Okay, that is a whole other country.
It's a whole other country. Yeah.
He's probably harder to get because it's in pot legal over there. It's probably a
I
little.
don't know. I need to ask him next
I don't
time.
think so. I think that's Washington.
He's actually a friend. He's a comic creator I've had on my show several times, and we got to talking about doing indie books and stuff. And I really like his special effects artwork, like in comics, whenever like a gun
Pow
shoots
and
it
zoom
goes
and-
Yeah.
So like he has really good ideas for those things, and the way he executes them, I thought would fit with the book really well, and it has. I really like everything he's done with the special effects and the sound effects. So we ended up hiring Ben Krieger from Oregon from Warrior Innkeeper Collective.
Something like that.
Yeah, and he's just doing a great job.
Plus, he's been super supportive of the book.
Yeah,
and-
that too.
So you get it all together, and now you're getting ready to actually make it. You started a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Which I understand how Kickstarter works, but for me, my problem is every time I see someone do a Kickstarter, all their little tiers seem more expensive. Like 90% of the money is going towards the tier stuff. Like if it's funded, you'll get stickers and this and that, and I'm like, that seems like 90% of the money you're trying to raise is to go to the tier. How did you guys figure out what you're going to do for the Kickstarter? How are you going to do your video, and then also what makes sense as far as tiering up on Kickstarter?
Well, one of the things we definitely wanted to do was variant covers for the book, and we have a lot of friends who are local artists and whatnot, and we ended up talking to 3 different ones. Chris Ryder, who does the Horseman Inc. comic for my show.
2 are Texas local.
2 are Texas local, James Linares and Devin Kraft. And we approached them, worked out a deal. They did awesome variant covers, which you could also use as prints, so it was kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
I saw them at the thing. They were great. I like the one the house that looks like a skull.
Yeah, that's Chris Ryder's. Just everybody seems to like that one.
Yeah, it reminds me of Ben Templesmith. So.
Yeah, he's great. So we did that, and then we decided to do T-shirts because that was fairly cheap. We just put the logo.
And fairly popular.
And popular, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the more common.
Well, after I bought mine, I saw that online that there's one with actual cover.
Yeah.
With a little thing, and I'm like, oh damn, they didn't have those at the.
We haven't ordered
Palooza.
those
We,
yet.
we haven't made those yet.
They
All right.
have more colors in them, so we're trying to figure out the most cost-effective way to.
Will there be an exchange program, or I'll just get another one? I'll just get another one. That way, I can wear 2 next year in 2 separate days.
That sounds very supportive.
You can get really sweaty and nerdy in one shirt at Comic Palooza in a day.
Yeah.
You got to
sure
change
did.
them out.
Yeah. The other thing was digital rewards because it costs nothing to do digital rewards. So since we're both podcasters, we decided to do 2 podcasts about all of this. You're getting the abridged version listening to this or any of the other podcasts we've been on, but there is a lengthier version that you
Yeah,
could
where
have
we really delve into detail, like everything, how we got started. And what,
Director's commentary.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But for comics.
Yeah,
So
cool.
we did that for the first podcast. For the second one, we're actually going to drive around Texas and try to promote the book to all these different shops, and we're going to kind of record our experiences doing that for the second giveaway.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Speak No Evil tour,
Yeah.
Texas tour.
So now that you've got the book, I saw the preview. It's getting ready to done. It's for a September premiere. Distributorship is the next step, I would assume.
Once we have the full book in hand, we've already gotten offers from a couple of different small press companies, and we're discussing with them what they would want to do with the book or what the plans would be. We're still kind of holding out hope that one of the bigger guys would be interested because we feel like it's a great story, and where it's going to go is definitely going to be popular.
Well, without getting into specifics, because I don't want to ruin deals for you, but what is a typical interaction with a distributor? How do you approach them with a comic? You just because I think just sending them a comic is going to be there's a stack of them right over here. We'll just throw them onto the stack, and it's not going to be.
I think they're all different.
Yeah, it's different for every single company. A lot of people just go in and give them a pitch and give them like a pitch sheet that says kind of this is what we want to do. Please give us money to show that we actually took the initiative and did the book ourselves to begin with, and that we can follow through on it, especially since we're new creators. I think that's actually
And on
really
top
important.
of that, since our Kickstarter was successful, all those people are technically our followers. There are people who are following along the book. So
Yes,
we have a somewhat-
overfunded. I want people to know you overfunded by I want to say by like 20% or so.
No, it wasn't that much. We
No,
got like
maybe 5%.
Well, what you wanted 4, and it's like 5.2 now. So
we wanted
that's
4,800.
was
So-
it?
Yeah.
I
so,
guess, okay, so you went over. You bet about I think about 10%.
but I mean,
That's still good.
we were still really happy.
The fact that you overfunded
Yeah.
is amazing. That's a positive. I was trying to boost you up, and you were.
Yeah, no. I
Don't
was
stamp that down. That's a
was-
big deal.
I was really worried the last few days. Like, shit, we're not going to make our...
Well, I understand from Kickstarter that the first it's like because how long is they normally go?
30 days.
Yeah,
30 days.
The first week and the last week are where you see like 90% of your money. Like the first week, everybody gets all excited because you're really doing it, and then there's that scary lull.
There's a plateau that hurts really
Yep.
bad.
And it's about 2 weeks long, and then it's like we're down to the end, and I think people kind of wait to see. It's like
There was only one day in that entire 30-day cycle that we didn't get a pledge. So every single day we got at least a couple of people saying
$1
we want to
or
support
more.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I mean, as long as like it was trickling in, even if it wasn't getting us to our goal very quickly, it was still encouragement.
No.
And it still kept in making us enthusiastic and want
And
to
more
keep.
pledges, the better.
Yeah.
Because you don't. I would rather have more pledges than get me to my goal than one big
benefactor.
One benefactor, because that means I can distribute more to more people, and more people are going to read it,
And they'll come back for the
and they'll
future
come back for the sequel
Kickstarters.
or
Yeah.
the second issue.
so. Where did these folks come from?
all over.
No, I mean, as a marketing standpoint, if I throw my Kickstarter out there for me, whatever it may be, I know that I've got it because I had a book, and I know that I wrote a book in 2010 that was overwhelming apathy. So I got the books, and I got plenty of them at the house. Sadly, I know my initial audience. It's kind of like the podcast. I know where a lot of that audience is. They're not all friends and family. But there's obviously the first tier is going to be family, then it's going to be your friends, and then it's going to be nerds that you know from Comicpalooza and from other things.
That's basically what it was. It was initially friends and family, and then I bring a pretty large audience because of ComicAL, and they're all giant comic book fans, so a lot of them came out to support us, which was really helpful. And then the rest of them we kind of just got because we did so much promotion. I think
we went on like 30 podcasts.
It was like 26 podcasts over the course of a month. I mean, it was all we were doing was podcasting.
And we were pitching the book, talking to people about it, and
a lot of those people, the host of almost all those shows supported us, and if they didn't, their audience did, because that last week it was like, and we hit our goal with no trouble. So
yeah, we had a couple of like really high end like the executive producer ones, and those went fairly fast. Those were $500 tiers, and one dude from California, I don't remember who the other person was.
Omar Spahi from California. He's actually the owner of Awesome Comics, who's been on my show several times. He's just an awesome dude. He really wanted to support us and help us make the book. Even if we don't go with him as our distributor, it was still super nice of him to help support us.
And certain distributors are regional too, so it's not like you can't have multiple distributors because some only do like the Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas.
We
and
have bigger aspirations than that, though. We want to go with a nationwide guy,
right?
Which we're going to eventually, no matter who we decide on.
Cool. So everything's done. I mean, now it's just churning them out like a normal comic book. What other projects you were talking about? You had some other projects coming up. Is there anything that you can reveal for us now that what the future of Gray Bear Comics is going to be?
Well, we can talk about the graphic novel.
We can talk. Yeah, we can talk about that one.
Okay, so we've got a graphic novel that I'm gonna start working on sometime this summer called Old Dog, and it's about this hitman who retired several years ago, and his family. He had a family. His wife's gotten sick, and now he needs more money. So he goes back to the mob and says, "Look, I need to work again." And they're like, "Well, the only job we got for you is to kill these kids." He goes, "Well, I don't kill kids. I've never killed kids." And they're like, "Well, we want you to kill these kids." "I'm not going to do it." So he goes and he tries to get jobs at places, but because he has no real skills, because he didn't go to college or anything, all he can get is mundane jobs. So he starts working as like a Walmart greeter or a McDonald's fry cook or at a mailboxes, etc. And it just causes a lot of friction in his life. And at the same time, we've got a second storyline going on with this serial killer.
Well, what happens is he ends up inexplicably becomes a CI for a
Criminal informant.
Yeah, a decrepit police officer who doesn't want to like change with the times, who's trying to catch another serial killer who pretends to be a janitor at office buildings and kills people in office buildings.
So the two of them, the hitman and the serial killer, kind of butt heads, and that's where the story's going to sort of end. We don't want to give away the ending.
Yeah, well, no, that's the crux. That's the conflict in the stories.
But
between those
that's
two.
probably going to be about a 100-page graphic novel,
right?
That we're writing over
this
the
is going to be a
summertime.
one-off graphic.
And then we have a couple of anthologies we're going to try to be a part of as well, which are just small stories. Basically, we're just going to try to get our names out there as much as we can. And I think most of the things we're going to write are either going to be in the horror or action genre because that's what we're the biggest fans of.
Right. Well, I'm a film dude, so everything I write is going to be cinematic to an extent. So
Gray Bear Comics. Where can they find you, and when do we have a specific date for Speak No Evil, or is it sometime in September?
Well, actually, you can go to graybearcomics.com, and that's GRAY, bearcomics.com, and you can pre-order the book right now. We are expecting to get the Kickstarter copies in towards the end of July, and should be sending those out. It should be available for actual purchase sometime in August, but our premiere date is going to be in September when we go to Amazing Houston Con. So that's, if you want to come and pick up a copy in Houston, that's probably the easiest place to get one.
What's the date for the Amazing Con again?
6th through 9th?
9th through 11th, I believe.
9th through 11th. I knew there was a 9th in there. That was the only day we had together, was the 9th. And go ahead and plug your podcast separately, because I know that, like I said, the fact that you're both on podcasts but not together, to me, it's like, that's crazy.
Well, technically, we do Speak Some Evil, which is another podcast.
Is it like Talking Dead?
Kind of, yeah. It kind of is, but it's for our comic book. Well, I'm on Metal Geeks. I'm one of 3 co-hosts there, and I'm probably the nerdier one of the 3.
You're the geek.
I'm the less metalhead of the 3, is what it is.
Yeah, and I do ComicAL Podcast, which is a show all about comics. We do interviews with creators, reviews, tell a lot of funny stories, and I do that with my co-host Miguel. You can find us at comicalpodcast.com or anywhere as ComicAL Podcast.
I show up on their show every now and again.
And those are always the funniest episodes, yeah.
Great, man. Well, again, it was great being part of the Comic Palooza podcast partnership program with you guys.
Oh, yeah, you were killing it, man.
And you did a hell of a job hosting the business panel.
Oh, thank you. I
for
tried.
The business of podcast.
For a person who knows nothing about business about podcasting.
Nobody did, so don't feel bad. And I guess you and Miguel, you know how much I like Miguel, because we were.
Who doesn't? Everybody loves Miguel.
Miguel is great because he's not an overbearing kind of personality, but he's a great audience too.
I don't know if I'd say that. He's
Well,
a pretty overbearing kind of personality.
Maybe to you, because you know him personally.
Yeah, because when I talk to him, he's always nice and polite, which throws me.
He's your Jay Muse, man. That's what it is.
He's nice and polite, but he's definitely my Jay Muse. Like if I'm Kevin Smith, the Silent Bob, he's Jay Muse. Walking around filleting everything in the room for a laugh.
Well, I just hope he lives through the drug overdose.
Someday.
He probably will.
Thanks, guys. That's the show. Thanks to George and Justin. Good luck with the comic. Reviews. The show needs reviews. Please think about leaving one on iTunes. It would really help. You can send questions, comments, and guest suggestions to Craig at SpeakerCraigPrice.com. Follow Reality Check Pod on Twitter. Sign up for the newsletter at RealityCheckPodcast.com. See you next week.